Hello folks, and for today's video, the trick I would like to perform is I'm going to read you 3 different sort of descriptions of the real nature of reality from 3 different traditions, 1 Advaita Vedanta and 2 Buddhist traditions, and we're going to compare them. Okay, so let's begin. The first thing I'm going to read comes from this book called Talks with Ramana Maharshi. Don't judge it too harshly just because Ken Wilber wrote a blurb for the front. You know, they probably can't help who writes the blurbs. And this is from page 19 of the book. It's a dialogue. He's talking to somebody about stuff. And Ramana Maharshi says, "The world is sensed in the waking and the dream states, or is the object of perception and thought, both being mental activities. If there were no such activities as waking and dreaming thought, there would be no perception or inference of a world. In sleep, there is no such activity, and objects and world do not exist for us. Hence, reality of the world may be created by the ego in its act of emergence from sleep, and that reality may be swallowed up or disappear by the soul resuming its nature in sleep. The emergence and disappearance of the world are like the spider producing a gossamer web and then withdrawing it. The spider here underlies all the 3 states, waking, dreaming, and sleep. Such a spider in the person is called Atman, or self, whereas the name with reference to the world, which is considered to issue from the sun, is called Brahman, supreme spirit. He that is in man is the same as he that is in the sun. While self or spirit is unmanifest and inactive, there are no relative dualities, e.g. subject and object, drik and drishya. If the inquiry into the ultimate cause of manifestation of mind itself is pushed on, mind will be found to be only the manifestation of the real, which is otherwise called Atman or Brahman. The mind is termed Sukshma Sarira, or thought body, and Jiva, the individual soul. The Jiva is the essence of the growth of individuality. Personality is referred to as Jiva. Thought or mind is said to be its phase or one of the ways in which the Jiva manifests itself, the earlier stage or phase of such manifestation being vegetative life. This mind is always seen as being related to or acting on some non-mind or matter, and never by itself. Therefore, mind and matter coexist." Now here's a piece from the book Living Yogacara, which I talked about a few months ago, maybe a year ago. It's a nice book about Yogacara Buddhist philosophy and explains it in a real simple, clear-cut manner, about as simple and clear-cut as you can get with Yogacara. In Yogacara Buddhism, unusually deep consideration was undertaken in regard to the nature of cognitive function and the objects of cognition. As a result of their investigations, Yogacara thinkers came to the conclusion that although as a matter of convention we perceive the things of the external world as if they were directly apprehended by us, and although we furthermore think that we correctly interpret their meaning based on this direct apprehension, these objects do not in fact exist in this way. Rather, the Yogacharans said that these cognitive objects are actually transformed by our own minds, and then are reflected onto our minds as images that resemble those things. Since an image that resembles the thing is conjured through transformation and floated on the mind, it is natural that some of its distinctive aspects will be sufficiently transmitted such that we can recognize it. However, we have good reason to doubt the extent to which this manifestation actually reflects the appearance of the thing as it is. Despite this reasonable suspicion, we proceed along with our lives, thinking that we are accurately seeing, hearing, judging, and understanding the objects that impinge on our awareness. Since none of us are intentionally trying to change the appearance of these objects, wanting to distort their shape or alter their appearance, we unthinkingly live out our lives believing that we are cognizing everything accurately. An important implication of coming to terms with this observation is that our daily life is not lived only in the mental domains of conscious awareness. The regions of mind which we can reflect on and regulate are known in Buddhism as the 6 consciousnesses: the visual consciousness, auditory consciousness, olfactory consciousness, gustatory consciousness, tactile consciousness, and thinking consciousness. However, these 6 kinds of awareness alone cannot account for the full range of our thoughts and activities. For example, standing in front of the same mountain, the seasoned veteran mountain climber and the raw novice see the face of that mountain with a dramatically different understanding. Our ordinary thinking consciousness has accumulated a great number of years of experience for which it lacks the capacity to contain fully. It was in regard to this observation that the Yogacharans, deliberating on the composition of our mind and its function of conscious awareness, came to be convinced that there had to be an additional, deeper layer of mind which, while continuously imposing its influence on everyday conscious awareness, also served as its underlying basis. Thus, they posited a subconscious region of the mind, comprised of the 2 deep layers of consciousness of Manas and Alaya Vijnana. And that's all you need to know for now. What the Manas and Alaya Vijnana are is very complicated. The Manas is a bit like a soul. It's like the individual personality mind. And the Alaya Vijnana is the storehouse consciousness, which stores all experiences, and it gets really hairy and convoluted, and I'm not going to try to explain it because I don't fully understand it myself, even after reading several books on the subject. The third thing I'd like to read to you today is from Dogen's extensive record, aka Eihei Koroku. This is a book of Dogen's talks as... I'm not sure if Dogen wrote these down himself or if his students wrote these down, because there's another piece called Zui Monkey, which was definitely written by Dogen's students. Ask an expert. Anyhow, this is a Dharma Hall discourse, meaning it's a talk that he gave to his monks. This is Dharma Hall discourse number 304 for those playing along at home. Great Assembly, the study of the way is not very easy. Therefore, ancient sages and former worthies studied in the assemblies of good teachers, where they practiced penetratingly for nearly 20 or 30 years. Yunyan and Dao Wu engaged the way for 40 years. Teacher Chuanzi stayed with Yao Shan for 30 years, clearly attaining this matter. Nan Yue Dahui studied at Kaoshi for 15 years. Lin Ji stayed at Huangbo Mountain for 30 years, planting pines and cedars, engaging in this manner. Therefore, brothers on this mountain should cherish their days and nights, engaging the way in Zazen. Do not be swayed by conditions. If you are swayed by conditions, you will remain within the dusts of the mundane world and will waste every bit of your time. Raising your head and snapping your fingers or sighing, you should regret every bit of the time you have wasted, because we cherish the Dharma body and Zazen. The first ancestor, Bodhidharma, came from the West and did not engage in various activities or give lectures on sutras or commentaries, but simply faced the wall in Zazen for 9 years at Shaolin. Sitting is exactly the true Dharma-eye treasury of the wondrous mind of Nirvana. Generation after generation gave face-to-face transmission, intimately receiving the secret seal, actually transmitting the bones and marrow between teachers and disciples. Just this is the single genuine matter. Other things are not like this. Therefore, Emperor Wu of Liang asked the first ancestor, that's Bodhidharma, what is the highest meaning of the sacred truth? The first ancestor said, vast emptiness, nothing sacred. The emperor said, who is this person facing me? The ancestor said, I don't know. This very not knowing has not been understood by anybody for the past several generations. Now among the mountains in Great Song, China, those abbots sitting in lions' seats, calling themselves teachers of heavenly and human beings, have never understood this. How miserable! How miserable! It goes without saying that among people within our country of Japan, nobody has understood. All of you people, do you want to understand the first ancestors not knowing? In the house of Buddha ancestors, originally there is no principle of mind nature, Buddha nature, or consciousness nature. Simply depending on the combinations of causes and conditions of wind and fire, there are movements and activities. And yet, stupid people consider movements and activities as eternal souls. Great Assembly, do you want to understand this point? After a pause, Dogen said, with the vast emptiness of nothing sacred and not knowing, you attain skin, flesh, bones, and marrow. If someone asks further about this, make him do 3 prostrations and return to his place. I'd like to just leave it at that, but maybe I should say a few things. The thing that struck me about this is I've been trying to understand Yogacara and a little bit of the Advaita Vedanta philosophy lately. And the difference between that and Dogen's philosophy of Zen, which Dogen would hate if I called it philosophy of Zen, so let's call it philosophy of Buddhism in honor of him because he hated the term Zen. Anyhow, the contrast is great, I think, and can be seen in these three passages. The Advaita Vedanta and the Yogacara people try to work out a system to understand the nature of reality and the nature of consciousness. And they seem to believe that that understanding, like fixing it in your mind, will help attain liberation or freedom or happiness or something. Whereas Dogen and the lineage he follows just says, I don't know. There's a few little bits and pieces here that might need clarification. When he says you attain skin, flesh, bones, and marrow, that is, attains enlightenment, attains full understanding. And the reason it's skin, flesh, bones, and marrow is because of the story of Bodhidharma's 4 disciples. One attained his skin, one attained his bones, one attained his flesh, one attained his marrow. That's the wrong order. Skin, flesh, bones, marrow, whatever. So the understanding prior to Dogen, and most people thought that this meant that the one who attained the skin was the shallowest realization and the one who attained the marrow was the deepest. Dogen, in one of his essays, maybe one of these days I'll remember which one, but he goes to great length saying that the skin, the flesh, the bones, and the marrow are all equally the enlightenment that those people had and aren't ranked. They aren't ranked 1 to 4. They are the same. The other thing about the movement of wind and fire, I don't take any special meaning from that. He's saying the movement of wind and fire is like saying this is how stuff goes. He's just using kind of, everyday expressions to say this is how it is. And he says, simply depending on the combinations of causes and conditions of wind and fire, there are movements and activities. So he's saying that just depending on the way things are, that's how it goes. And he's not trying to define it. He's not trying to say there's this level, this level, this level, and this level, or 8 levels as in the Yogacaran system. He's not saying that it's Jiva and Atman and Brahman and I've forgotten what all else goes on in the Ramana Maharshi quote, but it's complicated and there's levels and there's these things. Dogen just dispenses with all of that and says, don't know. Don't know is the ultimate answer. And it takes a while, and this is my experience, of working with this stuff before you finally figure out, oh, I don't know is the ultimate answer. Because for most of the time that you're working on this, it feels like kind of a cop-out. And I would say for years and years, I was just listening to this, I don't know is the ultimate answer, and being like, yeah, whatever, that's just a cop-out. There's got to be an answer that's better than that. Until one day I'm like, whoa, I don't know. That's the ultimate answer. That's the full answer. But of course, Dogen wrote 1 million books, and all the Zen masters write great books, and they try to explain it anyway. But they won't formalize it. They refuse to make it into a formula of memorize this, and this, and make it a list and fix it in your mind, and there you got it. Because they say the ultimate answer is I don't know. Although they will spend days and weeks and months of explaining what don't know means, sort of like I do with these videos. So if you like these videos and want to keep them going, you can send me money via PayPal and Patreon. The links are below. That's how I make my living. So thank you very much for listening. See you later. Bye.